Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for February 22nd, 2016. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, with analysis for the current week. We have the ES here in the daily time frame right now. We've seen price bounce very nicely into our upside key targets. Remember, we've been looking for reversals off of the bottom end of this range for moves back into 1921 and 1939.5, and we basically reached both of them perfectly here after this recent rally. Now that we've reached 19.5, that is, rather the 1939.5, that is the midpoint of the key range, which spans from 2075 down to 1804 quarter. Reaching the midpoint of this range is very important because so far that midpoint has been offered the last several rotations here. So another push into 39.5 or even 50.5, if price can't find acceptance above this zone, the implication would be for another return back toward recent lows. So right now, the major zone is going to be this 39.5 to 50.5. Pushing above it and holding would suggest a continuation into 2007 with a shot at reaching the HVN above at 2078. So this is going to be an important zone here to watch out, especially early in the week. Typically speaking, you want to grab your previous week's high-low close, and right now the ES is testing the previous week's high right on the button here, and a little bit of rejection above that zone. So that's something to watch out for as we head into the early portion of this week. Okay, let's drop into the intraday time frame here. Here's the ES in an intraday time frame. Right now you can see it's been a very bullish move here since the overnight open and also the pre-market. We've seen a straight push higher nearly into that 1939.5. Basically, prices continuing to push higher short term. Now again, we want to watch the previous week's high-low close information here. We're right at the previous week's high, and you can see how price is attempting to hold above that level short term here. So if there's a rejection in this zone, the expectation would be for a return from the previous week's high back to value 1922.75 with a shot to retest the close of the previous week at 1914 quarter. Now coming back into this area to defend value would suggest a continuation higher and a test of levels beyond 1939.5 and into 50.5. We do have an upside primary target on the day here at 37.75, which was already reached, but you can see on the way up, there's still room to go into 47.5 at least on an average day, and we've already begun it very nicely, so we could see that target if prices can hold the early pullback. Now we take a look at crude oil. Crude oil has been trending downward for quite some time here, but we recently saw a nice bounce here. We saw the recent lows here that didn't really look like a pivot low, although it did push right back into the midpoint of what became the key range. It gave us very nice ranges to watch. Failure to hold this range implied a move down. We got it. Price held outside the range for one day and then popped back above it. And that right there implied a move back to 33.43, which is the midpoint of the range, and we reached that just a few sessions ago. So now that we're back to the midpoint here, you can see I have a profile up where price is sitting right on top of composite VPOC here, or micro composite VPOC of this profile, 31.32. The top of values here at 33.24, bottom of value 29.32. And basically speaking, we saw a rejection above the midpoint of this key range, 33.43, and price dropped down. Now we're coming back to retest 33.24 from below. Typically speaking, this zone between 33.24 and 33.43 could offer an opportunity to defend by bears for a push downward into the bottom of value at 29.32. So above 33.43, any acceptance above that zone could get you back into 35.25, but that is a significant LVN there on the composite profile. Everything below that level has been offered so far, so if price rallies into that zone, expect bears to defend for a potential rotation lower. So we'll see how this plays out as we progress throughout the week. Looking at the intraday time frame for crude oil, you can see the aggressive move we've seen to the upside so far in overnight and pre-market trading. Right off the very narrow pivot range for the week. We've also seen, again, looking at the previous session or previous week's close at 32.11, it's gone bid significantly. So right now what that tells us is price may be headed for a move into the previous week's high if a retest is defended here at 32.11 for a continuation higher. Failure to hold above 32.11 could open up a much deeper pullback here as we head into the week. But right now, early strength, we could be looking at a big time test at these price levels above from late last week. Now, taking a look at gold here, we've seen gold form a range at highs, which was sort of our expectation here. Once the edge was set on the high and on this pullback low, we suggested that a bounce could be seen back within the range, and we saw that move. And actually that move was kind of predicated off the previous week's key levels. And you can see here, after price came back into our zone to defend, it rallied right into the previous week's what was the close price, and that was where it was defended. So right now, after the significant rally, we knew that we could see some sort of distribution range or perhaps a reaccumulation range, and that's what we're seeing right now. Expect further development within this range until expansion occurs. All right, taking a look at the NQ in a higher time frame, you can see here how prices bounced off of the 3,900 level. We saw price hold below 38.93.5, which is the bottom of the August range. That was a pre-market move down into that zone. I mentioned a failure to hold that level would suggest a return all the way to 42.26, and we hit it perfectly on a 3, 4, 5 day bounce. Perfectly. We've since pulled back and come back into that zone, but still 42.26, which is the midpoint of the August range, continues to hold. And in a downtrending market, this could be an area to sell and defend for another return to recent lows. Acceptance beyond 42.26 would seem rather significant short term and would open up a retest back at 43.09, which is the top of the key range. So right now, 42.26 very important. I would think that any pullbacks into the midpoint of the short-term key range, 40.85, could offer a buying opportunity for a test at the top of the range. Again, we'll keep an eye on these levels. Looking at the intraday time frame, very similar to the ES, the NQ, a very bullish overnight move, pre-market move. If we put on the weekly key levels here, the previous high is going to be 42.27.5. Previous close, 41.61. That was bid very quickly this morning. And again, here is kind of an LVN on the 5-day profile, a pullback into that LVN, call it 41.80, 41.78. Could offer a buying opportunity for a continuation higher. Failure to hold that level opens up a big move back toward 41.30.5. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the week of trading. Good luck, trade well, and happy Monday.